Paul Kagame, 23 October 1957, is the sixth and current president of Rwanda, having taken office in 2000 when his predecessor, Pastor Bizimungu, resigned. Kagame previously commanded the rebel force that ended the 1994 Rwandan genocide. He was considered Rwanda's de facto leader when he served as vice president and minister of defense from 1994 to 2000. Kagame was born to a Tutsi family in southern Rwanda. When he was 2 years old, the Rwandan Revolution ended centuries of Tutsi political dominance. His family fled to Uganda, where he spent the rest of his childhood. In the 1980s, Kagame fought in Yoweri Museveni's rebel army, becoming a senior Ugandan army officer after Museveni's military victories carried him to the Ugandan presidency. Kagame joined the Rwandan Patriotic Front (RPF), which invaded Rwanda in 1990. Leader Fred Rwigyema died early in the war and Kagame took control. By 1993, the RPF controlled significant territory in Rwanda, and a ceasefire was negotiated. The assassination of Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana was the starting point of the genocide, in which Hutu extremists killed an estimated 500,000 to 1 million Tutsi and moderate Hutu. Kagame resumed the civil war and ended the genocide with a military victory. During his vice presidency, Kagame controlled the national army and maintained law and order, while other officials began rebuilding the country. Many RPF soldiers carried out retribution killings. It is disputed whether Kagame organized these or was powerless to stop them. Hutu refugee camps formed in Zaire and other countries, which were controlled by the génocidaires, participants in the genocide, and threatened Rwanda's security. The RPF indiscriminately attacked the camps in 1996, forcing many refugees to return home, but insurgents continued to attack Rwanda. The attack on the refugees' camps killed an estimated 200,000 people. According to the UN mapping report, the attacks could be tantamount to genocide, potentially making Paul Kagame a war criminal. As part of the invasion, Kagame sponsored two controversial rebel wars in Zaire. The Rwandan and Ugandan-backed rebels won the First War, 1996-97, installing Laurent Desire Kabila as president in place of dictator Mobutu, and renaming the country as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC. The Second War was launched in 1998 against Kabila, and later his son Joseph, following the DRC government's expulsion of Rwandan and Ugandan military forces from the country. The war escalated into a continent-wide conflict, which lasted until a 2003 peace deal and ceasefire. As president, Kagame has prioritized national development, launching a program to develop Rwanda as a middle-income country by 2020. As of 2013, the country is developing strongly on key indicators, including health care and education. Annual growth between 2004 and 2010 averaged 8% per year. Kagame has had mostly good relations with the East African community and the United States. His relations with France were poor until 2009. Relations with the DRC remain tense despite the 2003 ceasefire. Human rights groups and a leaked United Nations report allege Rwandan support for two insurgencies in the country, a charge Kagame denies. Several countries suspended aid payments in 2012 following these allegations. Kagame is popular in Rwanda and with some foreign observers. Human rights groups accuse him of political repression. He won an election in 2003 under a new constitution adopted that year and was elected for a second term in 2010. One early life. Kagame was born on 23 October 1957, the youngest of 6 children, in Tambwe, Rwanda, a village located in the modern southern province of Rwanda. His father, Deogratias, was a member of the Tutsi ethnic group, from which the royal family had been derived since the 18th century or earlier. Deogratias had family ties to King Mutara III, but he chose to pursue an independent business career rather than maintain a close connection to the royal court. Kagame's mother, Asteria Rwigyema, was also a Tutsi, descended from the family of the last Rwandan queen, Rosalie Gicanda. At the time of Kagame's birth, Rwanda was a United Nations Trust territory. Longtime colonial power Belgium still ruled the territory, but with a mandate to oversee independence. Rwandans were made up of three distinct groups. The minority Tutsi were the traditional ruling class, and the Belgians had long promoted their supremacy, while the majority Hutu were agriculturalists. The third group, the Twa, were a forest-dwelling pygmy people who are descended from Rwanda's earliest inhabitants and formed less than 1% of the population. Tension between Tutsi and Hutu had been escalating during the 1950s and culminated in the 1959 Rwandan Revolution. Hutu activists began killing Tutsi, forcing more than 100,000 to seek refuge in neighboring countries. Kagame's family abandoned their home, living for 2 years in the far northeast of Rwanda and eventually crossing the border into Uganda. They moved gradually north and settled in the Nshungerezi refugee camp in the Toro subregion in 1962. It was around this time that, as young boys, Kagame and his future comrade, Fred Rwigyema, first met one another. Kagame began his primary education in a school near the refugee camp, where he and other Rwandan refugees learned English and began to integrate into Ugandan culture. At the age of 9, he moved to the respected Rwengoro Primary School, around 16 kilometers, 10 mi away, graduating with the best grades in the district. He subsequently attended Enter School, one of the best schools in Uganda. It is also the alma mater of future Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni. The death of Kagame's father in the early 1970s and the departure of Rwigyema to an unknown location led to a decline in his academic performance and an increased tendency to fight those who belittled the Rwandan population. He was eventually suspended from Enter and completed his studies without distinction at Old Kampala Secondary School. After finishing his schooling, Kagame made 2 visits to Rwanda in 1977 and 1978. He was initially hosted by family members of his former classmates, but upon arrival in Kigali, he made contact with members of his own family. He kept a low profile on these visits, believing that his status as a well-connected Tutsi exile could lead to arrest. On his second visit, he entered the country through Zaire rather than Uganda to avoid suspicion. Kagame used his time in Rwanda to explore the country, familiarize himself with the political and social situation, and make connections that would prove useful to him in his later activities. To military career, 1970-1994. This story continues. To follow the full journey, subscribe now and stay with us through every chapter. Like, comment, and share to support the mission of telling African history the right way. Don't miss part 2.